Hello, welcome back to Project Kermit. So this time around my main mission is to finish installing the engine. Well, finish installing the engine apart from the wiring, which I'll save for later. I want to do the radiator, the oil cooler, air filter, intercooler, all that kind of stuff. I'm also going to fit the wings, so I need to drag those out, refurbish those, and I want to fit the seat box. But before I can do any of that, I need to lock down the bulkhead, so that's up first. As you'll see in a moment, the rear tub and the bulkhead have to line up so that when you sight down this crease here, it's all in line. The rear of the tub, as you saw me and Mark put it on, can only really go in one position, so it's fixed with all of these. This bit here, the bodywork, can't move. The front of the tub can go up and down just a tiny bit, a matter of a couple of millimeters in either direction, which may come into play in a bit. Incidentally, I've used stainless steel fixings here, which seems sensible, all across the back. I've also stuck on the corner cappings. Oh, some people got very excited about the fact that I dared to paint those. All I can say to those people is, you ain't seen nothing yet. If you thought that was bad, it's going to get much, much worse. Well, that's not too bad, actually. So that's within spec, I'm going to say. At least going by Land Rover standards, it's well in spec. So I put some reinforcing plate here, just some angle iron, and stainless steel fixings again to attach the tub to the chassis. And here, these are for the seatbelt mountings. The next stage is to fit the sills. These are Kermit's original sills. I've just plastered them, painted them, cold galvan MIO on these ones. I owe thanks to Mike from Botanica Restorations for this part. He's made a whole video on door gaps, which I shall link in the description of this video. Well, he's actually made a whole series of videos. Fair play, that is pretty niche. A whole series of videos on door gaps. Anyway, the gist of what he had to say there is that the sill, so the crucial things that I took from the video are that the sill has to be at 90 degrees to this bit here. The other crucial thing from his video is to make a stick which is exactly 34 3/4 inches long. And what the stick is for is to establish the door gap. So that's almost there at the bottom. Best part of an inch out at the top, so we've got some work to do. That's not bad. It's a bit hard to tell because this has a bit of a bow to it, this piece. Yeah, the end of this definitely dips in. Squeeze there. Just an 1/8 of an inch that way, I think. There you go. Spot on. I'll do up those bolts. Now you should be able to see down here, there's supposed to be a really long bolt which goes from here all the way through the bulkhead and through the outrigger, and it needs the spacers in here. I've substituted it with this thread bar, and I'll just cut a spacer from a bit of pipe. There's the cut down spacer. I've just dabbed a bit of cold galv on the ends. The actual pipe is galvanised anyway, so that's nice. So I'll extract this bit of thread bar and pop the spacer in there and do this up. put in the driver's side sill, and the gap is correct at the bottom on each side, but way out at the top. So next thing is to get this part of the bulkhead shifted that way. Some movement there, but nowhere near enough. This stick's supposed to drop in here. So, quite a long way to go yet. So what I'm trying to do is flex it around this corner. The whole thing just needs to twist out a bit, which is doable this side. The other side, well, we'll deal with in a moment. That's looking better. That's it. So what I wanted to do was, well, what I've achieved is to flex the bulkhead so that the stick sits in without any pressure. So all we've got to do now is to lock it in this position, and we're good to go on this side. That side, there's not this level of movement. I won't be able to do the same thing, but we'll tackle that in a moment. Hit another snag now. Can't move this bulkhead forward anymore because now bear in mind this is off a defender, this pedal box. Part of the pedal box is contacting the steering box. Just a little bit there on that corner of the steering box. And that's preventing the bulkhead moving forward anymore. Get the accelerator cable out of the way as well. I've only got that much to go. I might be able to just bend that tag around a bit. Bend some of it. That's helped a bit. The stick is in position at the moment, but if I take it out, the whole thing will drop back by about 1/8. What I don't want to do is to pull this into position and then tighten it up, because it will hold there, but over time it will just jiggle out of position again, and then the doors won't close. It's done. That was, well, I said it was all day about 2 hours ago. It's almost dark now. Unbelievable. A whole day just doing that. And that very nearly beat me. It's done. It's done. I never have to do it again. Let's collect all the bits we're going to need there. So I'll get the seat box first because it's just over here. course, most of this is aluminium, so it's reasonable. Battery box though, or what will become the battery box, that's steel and it's decent work. I'll give it a good jet wash and strip it down and take it from there. We'll grab the wings next because I know where they are. Now, I've not yet had a close look at these, but I can tell even from this distance it's going to need some work. It's been clobbered there, well, more than once when I look at it. It does though look like reasonably intact. We've got the inner wing which looks serviceable. Wash a bottle, handy to have. Won't need damp. Get that in the washing pile along with this one. This one looks a bit better. Yeah. Next up, I need to retrieve all the bits I've got for radiators and oil coolers and intercoolers and stuff like that. I've definitely got a complete 200 TDI set that I took out of the Range Rover that donated the engine. I think I even remember where I put it, so we'll go and find that first and see what else is there. We've got two by the looks of it. This looks quite good. So we've got intercooler, radiator, and then this bit here's the oil cooler. Yeah, in contrast, this one looks horrible. That's a proper gash in it there. We'll let those dry off and strip them down. Well, after a rather stressful experience of the bulkhead alignment, I fancy doing something a bit more straightforward. So I'm going to fit the air filter. At least I hope it's going to be more straightforward. I'm not going to use Kermit's original air filter because that's on my other Land Rover along with Kermit's original engine. I'm going to use this, which is the air filter that came with this engine, so this from the Range Rover. Now on the Range Rover, I think it was stuck on the wing, which isn't going to work here. We've got some really nice mounting points here which held the air conditioning pump, I think. I'm not too sure. Something I'm not going to need anyway. These are the mounting brackets that came off the Range Rover. Now I could, so I got two of these. I could just put one there and one there, which probably might be alright. But I think a better solution would be to just make some little rails, and the rails will bolt down on here, and these will bolt to the rails. What that means is I can space these straps out. If we offer that up, that wants to sit there, and yeah, actually that's a, flukily enough, that offcut is the perfect length. Yeah, so I'll just get another one of those, drill some holes in it, and we're on our way. Goes there. Okay, I'm just gonna, we'll cut these off Not sure what's going on here. Tidy this one up. And yeah, have a look for some stud. And then that goes on there. Excellent. I've dug through the workshop and found some draft excluder tape. So it's just neoprene with a sticky back to it. That'll do for sealing the heater box to the bulkhead. These little brackets help to hold on the wings, like that, one on each side. While we're here, I might as well do this bracket as well. So that bit of rubber's poking out a good ½ inch this way and that way. That seems to be all the plague on now, which is brilliant. Well, that's good. That's a couple of important things done. The filter and the heater. The next thing I want to do is to put the wings on, just to make sure that when I do the radiators and the oil cooler and everything, that I don't exceed my space. I'll have to carve a big lump out for the servo. Yes, I forgot Kermit didn't have a servo before. Yeah, what we'll do there is bring that up there. It really is the face of the car, isn't it, putting the wings on? Even more so than the grille, I think. Good. So now we know how much space we've got to work with. Next thing to do is to suss out the plumbing. So I've laid out, well, let's have a look in the workshop. What we have here is my entire stock of cooling system components. And even two that aren't mine. These two intercoolers I brought back from my last visit to Mark's place on the back of my motorbike. It turns out I already had both of these. There's a 200 and a 300 version, and that's what we've got here. Now, looking at these, put them side by side, it's totally apparent that, well, this is mint compared to that. There's a few interesting differences actually. This is off a 200 TDI, which must be the Range Rover. This is off 300 TDI, which I think must be off my old Discovery, which I'm surprised to find this actually, because I thought I'd given this one away. I'm glad I didn't now, because it's probably going to be used. So you can see the outlets are different. So on the 200 we've got them diagonally, and on here they're there and there. I think there's some kind of baffle in the middle of the radiator to make the water circulate. And the intercoolers are also got a slightly different layout. I've got a vague memory of replacing this radiator maybe 100, 200 miles before the vehicle ended up being scrapped. Or, well, recycled, let's say. Quite a lot of that vehicle still lives on. And so will its radiator by the look of it. Anyway, let's offer this up to Kermit and see if it's anywhere near being able to be plumbed in. I don't imagine for a moment it's just going to drop in place, but let's go and find out. Now, obviously we've got these brackets, they'll have to go. Other than that, this frame is actually fairly compatible with the spacing here. The big issue that I can see at the moment is down here, this steering arm. We've got to give plenty of clearance for this to go to full lock. This is Kermit's front panel. So this is the classic Series 3 look with the recessed grille. I'm not going to use that. This is a Defender grille, and on a Defender the front grille sits pretty much flush with the wings, so somewhere like that. Now I'm not going for this look either, not quite. I don't like this plastic grille very much, so I'm going to do away with that and replace it with steel mesh. And it'll end up looking like a Stage 1 for those Land Rover nerds out there. So the Stage 1 was a kind of in-between model, in between the Series 3 and the 9110s. What I'm actually going for, I don't think I've actually said this before, but what I've been bearing in mind as we go along with this build is my own interpretation of a Series 4. So what if, instead of going down the Stage 1 and then the 9110 route and eventually the Defender, what if Land Rover had done something more like the Spanish company did, Santana did, of just improving the Series 3 into a Series 4. So keeping the leaf springs and taking it from there. So I'm perfectly aware I'm going to end up with a vehicle that's going to horrify some purists, but I'm okay with that. What I'm trying to do is to make a Land Rover that just shouts archetypal Land Rover to people who aren't necessarily Land Rover enthusiasts even. But anyone that sees it will instantly recognise it as an old Land Rover without being quite able to put their finger on what model. That's what I'm going for. The sun's against us a bit, but hopefully you can make out what I'm pointing at. So down here we've got that steering arm that needs to be avoided. If I go up, I wonder if I could just go up there with it. One option for avoiding this steering arm would be to move the whole radiator setup here over there. Then this oil pipe would clear it. There'd be clearance, but it means we're about 2 inches from this side, and I think the wing is being pushed out at that point. Yeah, it's close. It's very close, but that's not going to work. So the other option would be to lift this up to there. That would clear it, I think. Obviously, I do have a Defender bonnet to go on here. The series bonnet would end about there, so I've got a Defender bonnet to come all the way over. It might be worth fitting that, test fit that. Well, back here again, unusually well organised pile of Land Rover bits. Look at that, I knew exactly where it was. I bought this bonnet years and years ago. I got it for 99p off of eBay, which was an absolute bargain obviously, but it was down on the south coast, so it took me all day to go and get it. I actually went and got it in the Range Rover that's donated the engine to Kermit. Flower power. some dents in it, but I hope you can get a little bit of a sense of what I'm aiming for here. So if you imagine all this properly up together without massive gaps like this, all done in sand glow, and then with a truck cab roof on it in black, and a nice metal grille and a black bumper. That's why I'm going to paint the bumper as well. Try and knock out these massive dents in this bit here. This damage is not recent because it's full of body filler. quite a substantial amount of body filler. The other thing I've got to do is to straighten this out a bit because it's not sitting properly on the wing because all that's going on there. It's just aesthetics, I know, but I would honestly rather see a load of hammerbucks in a body panel than a load of filler. I'm not going to get carried away now. I just want to get the shape back in, which I think we've got. There's a nice line there. And in fairness, there's a nice line there now. That is way more consistent now. And it's telling me that this has got to come up to meet that, but when it does meet it, there's a proper line. I don't think I'll use this actual front panel. It's, apart from anything else, someone's cut a lump out of it. This is really odd. I think Mark gave me this one years ago. Or it might have been in the back of Kermit when it turned up here. Yeah, if I put that there, see that. This is a bit less battered than this one. I'll have to do something about that, of course. Can't have that. So I'm just thinking I might as well, because I'm going with a flush front to it, I've got lots of room here. I might as well make the most of it, or make more use of it. I'm just thinking I could take the intercooler out. That will give me space to move the radiator across just by about that much. Then this radiator housing can come forward a tad, because it'll be clearing this steering arm then, because this whole thing with the oil pipes won't be anywhere near it. So that came over, and then the intercooler could just sit this way. Bear in mind that this would be, that would be there at that point. So this would then come round here. Some of the intercooler would be there. It's a bit hard to explain, but I think that would actually work really well. Wings aren't sitting properly at the moment. I mean, this one's not bad, that one's a mess. Might as well start with this one. Go up. Another 2 mil this way. Yeah, that's it, that's perfect. There you go. That's good. That does feel like, actually, like I've done something. Whew. The next stage is to get the radiator, well, the radiator housing, the intercooler, all that made up and dropped in, because now I know exactly the space I've got to work with. Once the radiator and the intercooler are in, then the rest of the plumbing can go in. So, and I've got to find the expansion tank and then find a place to put it. But for today, that's good. I'm happy with that. So I've been considering how to fit the radiator and the intercooler in the engine bay, and the fact that I need to shift over the radiator. I think this is the easiest way to avoid that steering arm, is to shift the radiator over about that much, roughly. What I've seen some other people do is to cut this radiator cradle and offset part of it so that the intercooler is then forward and over that way, or possibly you could just take the intercooler out and put it on its side in front. I've seen that done as well. But then I had a bit of an idea. As I've got so much space in the engine bay, because I'm not having the Series 3 front panel, because I've made it a stage 1 front end basically, and I've got 2 of these radiator cradles, maybe I could use both of those. Probably the easiest thing to do is if I just break this one down. I'll try and whip up my idea, see if it's going to work. Okay. The radiator, well, and the intercooler sit on these little pegs which go through these rubber grommets, and of course, yeah, they're not going to line up if I do this, which is fine, but just something that I've got to work around. Let's see if that works. That goes up there. I think if I put the intercooler this way up, it can go there. It's going to work, isn't it? Should allow for that now. That's quite neat. So with this one button up to the front panel and this one button up to that one, it all sits really nicely. Plenty of clearance for the steering arm. Clearance for all, yeah, all the plumbing. The next stage then is to mess about with these cradles to get them secured in the vehicle. Still got some bits to cut off here just to tidy it up. If you look closely you can see where I've just marked it with that little drill. So what I'll do now is work out where the middle seems to be, on average as it were. That's that. I'm just going to use the washers as a spacer, a guide. Plastic extrusion down and drill some holes in it. These, well, hopefully there'll be spaces. Are fixed there, there and there onto the chassis, and then there's screws going up the side now which are there, there and there. This is the expansion tank I'm going to use, and it's going to sit about there, I reckon. If I put it here, then we've got room for a hose to go down there and to go down there, so each side of the inlet to the air filter. That'd be really neat. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, that's great. I'll need at least one more. Preferably something to pick up on this as well. Now if I do it like that, I'm going to get in the way of the air filter inlet. And I do want to put a hose on the inlet to this air filter and direct it over there, right into the front of the grill. That's what I'm going to do, send that across like that and kick it up at the end. Yeah. You can see what I'm aiming for, and I'm just going to cut off the excess. That's enough there, isn't it? Yes. Yeah. Put that there. And cut that off there. Good, that's that. So I'm basically going to go through all those hoses that I've laid out on the workshop floor, see if I can see what I can do with them, and then I'll order what I've got, what I've not got. This is what I've sorted out so far. Well, not sorted out. This is what I found so far to put in here. I've got heater hose. It actually says heater hose on it, so that's going to go on the heater. That's enough to do that. It's only 2 little bits. I found a small hose here that goes to the expansion tank. That's to do with the heater as well. I've dug out the fan. Actually, I've got to think about putting that on the, that sits on the footwell next to the heater box over there. For the radiator top and bottom hoses, the bottom hose has a connection halfway along which goes up to the expansion tank. So I've just ordered the Defender version of the 200 TDI radiator bottom hose, which should fit, I think, but we'll see when it gets here. And while I was at it, I ordered the top hose as well, because I think that will do for that. I don't need that one. For the intercooler, I think I'm sorted. I think I've got all the stuff that I need. I've ordered induction hose to go from the air filter to the turbo, and from the air filter round to the front here, which is where it'll collect the air going into the filter and into the turbo. Okay, that's that. One of the last bits of fabrication I need to do at the front end here is to sort out some kind of brackets that hold this V, this upside down V brace, onto the chassis. I'm going to take the opportunity to, well, this is my current idea, I'm going to see if it works. I'm going to use the opportunity to make one big bracket, so I'll use this piece of angle line here. What I'm thinking is, if I take this actual piece of angle line, cut it there, and then flip it over so that it comes that way and then that way, and tuck it behind here. I think that'll look quite neat, and the upright part of the angle I can drill for a bolt to go through each side to hold these in. It's just enough room for me to take this as the brace here, this thing. I can push it up there and then put the bolt through, and it won't be seen from the outside. And there it is, all welded and roughly cleaned up. See if it fits. No, I can still get in and do the, yeah, I can do the bumper bolts. There's room for that. That's all going to fit surprisingly well, actually. Yeah, you might see now at the end where the bumper bolts go in. There you go. While the mesh is off the front, I can test fit a fan that I found. This was lying at the back of the workshop somewhere. I'd obviously stashed it just for this job. It's already set up as a push fan, which of course is what we want to go in here. So of course, in this setup, I've got two radiator cradles, one holding the actual radiator and one holding the intercooler here. And I could use either of those to just make up some brackets and hold this fan just there. I could get some of those cable tie things to go through. In fact, I've got some somewhere, but I think some actual brackets would be a bit nicer. Yeah, I'll try and remember to do that when I take these cradles out and before painting them. Now you see this big hole in the wing, unlike this big hole in the wing, this one is supposed to be here, and it's to provide the air intake for this, which is the blower for the heater, which is there. At some point during this build, I decided I'm going to try and use the absolute minimum amount of filler, or possibly no filler. And so on most of the panels, I'm just going to beat them back into the correct shape and not worry about the undulations or the hammer marks. That's the problem here though, because here there's a great big gash in the bodywork. So I might learn to live with that, but I might have another outer wing section. Let's go and have a look in the stores. And by stores I mean brambles. There's a pair of wings here. Now this is a Series 3 front wing. Much the same issue. That is a lot of filler. Why on earth would anyone put that much filler in a Land Rover wing? I just don't get it. That would have been so much quicker, and this wasn't me that did this, by the way. It would have been so much quicker just to take the wing off and hammer this dent out. Tell you what, there's no holes in this one. And obviously it's had quite a beating, but if I just get rid of all the filler and knock these dents out, I think we're onto a winner. So with that wing decided on and all of that, I'm happy with the dry fit, as it were. So the next stage is to pull all that to bits and repaint it and reassemble it. But that's for the next episode. I think I'll wrap up this one here. Now it might look like there's not been much progress, but there's been a great deal of thinking time gone into getting to this stage, and for me that's the hardest part. Actually doing the work is, once I've worked out what to do, quite straightforward. It should be obvious by now that I'm not just going for a straightforward restoration. I'm heading towards something, my own particular vision of what an ideal Land Rover is. And no doubt I'm upsetting some people along the way. But it's my truck, my vision, and I'm going to see it through. And I think it'll be good in the end. Anyway, as I say, that will do for now. See you next time. Cheers.